Welcome to A Styled Life, the podcast for purpose-led female founders and senior leaders ready to use style as a powerful tool for confidence, impact, and influence. I'm your host, Alex Standley, multi-award-winning personal stylist, speaker, and sustainable fashion consultant with 2 decades of experience in the fast-paced world of fashion. Join me as we redefine success from the inside out. This podcast isn't just about clothes. It's about personal power, purposeful style, and creating a life that aligns with your values. So whether you're running a business, leading a movement, or stepping into your next chapter, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll dive into the world of personal style, sustainability, female empowerment, and living with intention through real stories, expert insights, and plenty of inspiration. It's so much pleasure to welcome to you a conversation with a woman who has spent her career turning other people's expertise into influence. My guest has founded 3 international businesses and coached thousands of business leaders and entrepreneurs across the world on how to become thought leaders. She's delivered 2 TEDx talks, one of them for her social impact project, Giving 1%, which encourages people to think differently about regular charitable giving. She's also someone I've worked with directly. We completed a full style process together, and I was recently a guest expert at her Thought Space retreat in St Albans as well. Today, we're talking about purpose, about what happens when you outgrow your personal brand, about TEDx as a credibility marker, and about what changes when your presence finally catches up with the scale of your mission. So please welcome Mindy Gibbins-Klein to the podcast.
Thank you, Alex. Delighted to be here.
Really excited for this conversation, Mindy. I wanted to start the conversation and focus around your mission because I think it's really beautiful and it's what kind of drew me towards you when we first met as well, because as you know, I'm very passionate about working with purpose-driven founders, and your work is all about helping thought leaders to amplify their mission. Why does that matter so much to you?
Thanks for that beautiful question. These days, as I think you know, I've begun to talk about thoughtful leaders, not just thought leaders. And it's an important distinction because thought leadership has become one of these buzzwords. And it's great that there are thought leaders out there guiding people. Most people want guidance and direction in lots of areas in their life and business. But thoughtful leaders have something special. And we've stripped away the ego, and it's not about building a profile for the sake of it and more followers and visibility. Not only, it's important to have visibility when you have a big mission, because you want lots of people to know about it, but it's a different kind of energy. And that's what excites me. That's where I'm coming from these days.
And what drew you to particularly focus on thoughtful leaders? I know this bit, but for the audience, in terms of, is it alignment with your values, or what was the kind of key driving factor for you?
Yeah, definitely. My values have shifted through my life. And I think most people, as they evolve, as they get older, they realize what's actually important. And like I say, we do need people to know about us and our mission.
Yeah.
All this work is very important. But I do have a marketing background, and I was finding that everybody's marketing, everybody's pitching, everybody's promoting, and it's a very noisy world out there. So even if somebody has great intentions and puts a lot of time, effort, and even money into promoting themselves, they don't always get the results they deserve. And I just really want good people doing great work to have great results and to be able to do that work that they were put on this planet to do. It sounds like a big goal, and it is, but that's what drives me.
I love that so much. And I think it's often those people that are purpose-driven and, heart-led and all of those beautiful things that don't necessarily shout about themselves or have the visibility that, as you said, they deserve. And I think that's what's so wonderful about your mission, because there's, as you said, so much noise, especially in the online space. And I think it's as competitive as it's ever been, and also as easy as it's ever been on the flip side to market yourself and to put yourself out there. As much as social media has its pros and cons, it is ultimately a free tool that we can all use to promote our business. And
Here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, exactly. And I think I really liked actually what you said when I came to your retreat about sticking to, the platforms or the tools or whatever that feel comfortable to you and align, with who you are. Because I think it's so easy to be a magpie and to think that you need to do absolutely everything and follow every single shiny platform or marketing tool that there is. But actually there's real power in aligning with the way that you work and, the person that you are as well. And I know that's key to your work that you do as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people are trying to find themselves and that, they can experiment with different messages, different platforms, different offerings. And that's fine, I think. But at some point when you settle on what it is that you want to offer, what it is you want to be known for, there is an obvious place or a couple of obvious places where you're going to get the best alignment with other people who are there. And I've learned this the hard way.
Yeah.
There are certain platforms that just don't do it for me. They don't resonate. And as a result, it's hard work and that probably comes across. And then, I think, gosh, it's not getting the results. Well, yeah, that's not a surprise because my energy is probably not coming through in those media. So, we have to learn these things, but I think most people could say where they enjoy playing. And then it's a question of finding the time and making the time to, put the best content onto those platforms.
And making sure that the message you're putting out there is strong and it's what's going to resonate with your audience as well.
Yes, you can do your best, but you never know what's going to resonate with people. And one of the things I'm fond of saying, as you know, Alex, is you can do all the work, but you can never control how it lands. Although if you are consistent and persistent, you begin to see more results. The issue is when people dabble or they say, nothing's happening and they quit just before it could explode. Been there, done that. I've done everything I talk about, I've done.
Yeah, all lived experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most powerful leaders or founders. That is where they're coming from. They're creating offers and services from lived experience. And I think there's nothing more powerful than that. It's great to have qualifications and certificates and everything else, but unless you've actually lived and breathed it and made the mistakes yourself, I think it's hard to teach other people, because as much as a textbook or a course can, tell you what to do or how to do it, until you've actually experienced it yourself, I think it's just not got the same depth behind it. And it's also embodied action as well, which I think is so important in an online space where there's a lot of people perhaps performing a version of themselves that isn't quite truthful. And I think I love that about you. I think that, those values around honesty and integrity and all of those things are really important.
Thank you. I don't really know how to be someone other than myself, although I did grow up on a stage. I never did pursue the acting career that I thought I wanted. Because I think, that's fine. Acting is one thing, but I just like being me. And, I learned that very early on. It's interesting what you say about, being authentic and, performing as yourself with integrity. I think most people, if they just took the time and took a step back, would know what feels right, what works for them. And, it's a bit of trial and error, like I was saying. But to be able to choose, because the thoughtful leader wants to be in this world and conduct their business thoughtfully. And that's only possible when you slow down, take time out and kind of go with your gut. What's working? What feels right? And it's so lovely to be in alignment with that and to discard things that you don't enjoy and that don't work for you. And, just it makes things simpler as well.
Definitely. And I think I really resonated with that when you spoke about that on your retreat and you were saying, you get to choose who you work with and all of that kind of thing. And I think obviously that can be more challenging when you're early on in your business. But I think once you're more experienced and more established, then we kind of forget that the whole reason, well, not the whole reason, but one of the big factors behind often having your own business is having that freedom of choice and aligning the work that you're doing with your values and your purpose and everything else. So I think it's really important when you're building a personal brand, whether that's in a corporate situation or if it's, as a founder. Talking of personal brand, I wanted to also touch on you've been previously known as the Book Midwife, which you've built as, a very strong personal brand, but your work has obviously evolved over time to encompass a lot more than just books. How has that evolution felt for you in terms of, because I think sometimes it can be quite hard when you're known for something specific to then kind of grow outside of those realms in terms of the personal brand?
Well, that's certainly true. I would make a distinction around the brand. It's not my personal brand. It's our globally trademarked brand. And that has allowed me to remain the founder of the Book Midwife brand. So I think I always made sure that it was never synonymous with me personally. Many people, they do business under their own name, and that's fine. But then it's quite tricky to unravel, or they may not be selling their brand, or it might be hard to do, as we intend to do in the near future. So yes, I'm the founder of that very successful brand. And the great news is that's not all I do, and that's not all I am. So as I began to do more, starting with thought leadership 18 years ago, that allowed me to have a different brand, which I don't use anymore. And then 11 years ago, the Thoughtful Leader brand was born. So I kind of manage all of those brands as a founder and entrepreneur, and they kind of, go up and down as required.
Yeah.
We're never just one thing, and we're never just doing one thing. Even if people think, well, I just do one thing. If you kind of look, peel the lid off and look, there are different variations. There are different kinds of clients. There's different types of work and offerings. In my case, it became very obvious that most of the people who came to me to write their books didn't just want a book. And that was a big revelation, like I say, 18 years ago. They wanted to be, they thought they wanted to be thought leaders.
Yeah.
And I facilitated that. I've done hundreds of workshops and sessions and coaching and training on thought leadership, which is really about all their writing and all their speaking. And I still do that work. I just do it with the thoughtful leader lens now. And my current mission has shifted a bit because it is about making the world a more thoughtful place, one thoughtful leader at a time, which sounds very grand or grandiose. That is what drives me. That is what I think the world needs. That is what I think people need. They need to feel great about themselves. And we all know how good we feel when we're being thoughtful in both senses of the word, putting the right kind of thought into things because we care. But it's just that, a lot of people get caught up in business building and strategy and marketing and executing on the strategy. And they forget about the important things, even when they have a mission, even when it's a heart-led business. They, day to day, they're not necessarily thinking about that, and it's only natural. We need the bottom line to be strong, or we don't have a business. We need customers, or we don't have sales. And then we don't have a business. So, but it's about, like I say, taking that step back, being thoughtful, intentional, and creating what we set out to create at the beginning. And that could be in someone's career, like you say, or their own business. So I hope that makes sense, because I think anybody who feels something's missing, it could be they've lost touch with the heart-led mission that they started with. And it is very simple to get back to that.
And I think it's really easily done because of the noise that there is, especially in the online world, to kind of either fall out of love with why you started your business and the mission that you had to begin with, because you get kind of misdirected and get caught up in that. But I think it was Simon Sinek that said that, if you find yourself in that place and he's obviously all about start with why. he actually said, do something for somebody else and have, it can be a really simple act of service, like checking in with a friend or, just doing something for somebody else. And that can often be the thing that can bring you back to yourself. Because when you feel like you're giving something to somebody else, it can then, correlate that then helps you to get back to who you are. And I think that's really powerful, as you said, in terms of, I think most people who have, a purpose-led mission, they are all about a positive impact in some way or another on people and planet. So I think that I really liked that piece of advice as well. I'm sure there's many women who listen to this podcast who can, resonate with that feeling. What would be your advice, if there was one thing that they could do to maybe reduce the overwhelm or feel more aligned in whether it's their personal brand or their mission?
Is a two-part piece of advice. Firstly, we need to give ourselves grace and permission to stop, take some time out, reflect, be thoughtful. But we need to give ourselves grace in general and not beat ourselves up. Whatever's gone on or not gone on. Personally, I think they haven't fallen out of love with their mission. I think we just forget. We forget about the most important things. And that's counterintuitive. You think, how could you forget about the most important things? But we do, because of what you were saying, just the noise and the pressure and the peer pressure and just the stresses of daily life, if we allow those to distract us. And we do. And so if you're watching us or listening to Alex and me right now, if you have kind of got a little bit out of touch and forgotten, smile, take a deep breath, give yourself some grace, because you're still you. You still care. You've still got a mission and great work ahead of you. So the actual piece of advice beyond just, give yourself permission and grace is to take that time out now and restart. Because people think, they think they have to go back to their original plan. Things evolve. Our businesses
definitely
evolve. Our objectives, the way we look at things, our experience and our insights, and stuff happens. The world moves so fast. And so just because you set out to do a certain thing 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it doesn't mean that resetting means you have to go back to that. No, resetting, it's kind of like when I'm baking in my kitchen. And I am a bit of a baker. I've got the digital scales where I can press restart at any time. It makes it 0 again. And then I can put in exactly what's needed. So it's not like I'm stuck with whatever I've done. It is a bit crude, that example, but it's fun for me because I like
that
baking.
analogy.
You just press that and you've got the blank slate and you've got a place to restart whenever and wherever and however you want. And it can be liberating. It can also, make people feel a bit lost.
Yeah.
But that's why coaches are available. And that's, I spend more than half my time helping people reset to 0 when they didn't even realize that's what they needed to do.
Yeah.
So there's always help available, but that's what needs to be done sometimes. So it's start with why is great, get back to why is also great, and create a new why is also great.
I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in the last sort of 7 years or so of having my business is that not to be fixed on the way that you get to your goals, that your goals might stay the same or they might not, but it can look very different to how you first imagined it might in terms of the way that you get there. And as you said, because things do change and you evolve as a person, I think that's probably the biggest thing that has happened to me, is that my personal development has accelerated having my business. And so that changes how you want to do things as well and how you approach things, and just you as a person, I think. So we met through TEDx, which was an amazing experience. The talk that it was your second TEDx talk when we met, and that was as part of your Giving 1%. And I'd love you to talk a bit more about that, but it's helping people become aware of their existing charitable giving and consider giving at least 1% of their net monthly income. Why did you choose that particular topic for TEDx?
Well, it seemed relevant for what we were trying to do at that event. The real purpose of me talking about giving is, like you say, to make people aware, because we can't even work on things we're not aware of. If we don't even know what we don't know, we can be forgiven for not working on it. And I was in that situation. It's why I set up the project Giving 1%. I'd lost touch with my charitable giving. So my income over the years had really gone up, but my giving hadn't kept up. And when I did a calculation, without getting into all the nitty gritty, watch the talk. We'll hopefully put the link in the show notes.
Yeah, definitely.
I had a rude awakening. I had a big shock, and I was very upset because I knew I wasn't giving 10% or one of these arbitrary figures, but I had no idea it was less than 1%. Selfish and greedy and whatever else. And I'm not judging myself, but that's what happened. And I wanted to be that generous person that, that I had in my mind. That was my identity. So there was a mismatch. And then I realized so many other people have just forgotten. So there's a theme here. I'm going to say the same thing. Give yourself grace, give yourself permission to restart with a new idea about yourself as a generous, thoughtful person. And this is just one practical way for people to look at their giving, and it's called thoughtful giving. So you can have thoughtful giving and then thoughtful living. If people don't even know or haven't thought about giving on a monthly basis, then, there's no sort of baseline. There's no starting point. So the giving1%.com site is all about helping people calculate in a anonymous and fun way, to figure out where they are right now as starting point. And then, like you say, decide if they could give more, because individual giving is the answer. We cannot rely on governments and companies, not completely. And also, it does help us feel great about ourselves if we're giving what we can. So that's what drives me about that.
I think it was a really amazing experience because the theme was curiosity for that year, and it was incredible. I learned so much, which is obviously the idea of TED as a concept, ideas worth sharing. But the talks were so different. I learned so much from each individual talk that I either wasn't aware of, or it shifted my perceptions, or, there were so many different examples of that. And I think that's a really powerful part of TEDx. And you've done this twice now. So what are your thoughts on TEDx as a kind of credibility marker for thoughtful leaders and founders? And do you think, because I think it's become almost a bit of a, I don't know, like a buzzword. And I obviously, I thought it was a really powerful experience, and I learned a lot about myself through going through that process. But I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are now and how you'd kind of advise clients about going through that process as well.
Thanks for asking that, because I do work with clients who want to do TEDx talks. Mostly on the strategic basis, but also on the content preparation and making sure they have clarity, because that's the main thing. Each talk is powerful, and it's, they're vetted. There's a very strict protocol to choose who's going to be speaking on that stage for a reason, because each talk has to have an important message, and that, like I said before, may or may not resonate with everybody. But you're right that, they all have that substance and that important characteristic of authenticity and, saying something. So TEDx is a brilliant platform. It's a, fantastic brand, came out of the TED brand. And, you were never going to get enough people to California to speak at TED. So I'm glad it's proliferated around the world. Has it become a buzzword? There are still quality controls, like I was saying. And then it just means that there is more great content available. And if people watch certainly the videos, if they, go on YouTube, they can see as many as they want. So I think it's great that there's more than ever. You're always going to find people jumping on bandwagons. I wrote an article many years ago where the message was, if everyone is an expert, what does that make you? And it was a bit tongue in cheek, because if everyone's an expert, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are one, you aren't one, that there's a chance for you to be one. It doesn't mean anything. It may mean that you have to work a bit harder to be seen, like we were saying, but I really believe that the right people find us. And, if we do put ourselves out there, and I don't mean posting every day and being a real guest, but put yourself out there in whatever way works for you, you will attract the right people. I really believe that. And if the right people is, 25 amazing clients, great. If you think, well, but I want 2,000, that may or may not be in your future. So, it's a bit spiritual, that message. I think we have to partner with the universe for these things, because fighting with the universe is not fun. I've gone a little bit off track, but when the TEDx experiences came my way, I said, yes, I will do it. I will fit into the theme. I mean, in my case, it was very, very easy because I was curious about my giving, because I just had this feeling that I wasn't giving enough, and I was right. And so when we're offered these opportunities to share, we can share, but let go of the outcome. I have no idea how many views or likes or anything I have. My other talk did very well, but it's on a controversial-ish topic, so it's currently unlisted.
Okay.
We can't control the outcome, the response, or anything like that. But what we can do is put our best work out there, put our authentic selves and messages and content into packages that make it easy for people to consume, and then let go and allow those clients and that interest and that coverage or whatever's coming your way, allow it to come. And it feels a lot better and it's more fun.
Definitely. So I also wanted to talk about style, because I think it's a good segue into, I kind of dislike the word authenticity now because it's so overused, but
Sorry.
I think that's one of the things that when we started working together, you wanted your wardrobe to reflect your authority. And, you've got so much experience in the work that you do, but also your personality, and to perhaps modernize it a bit and just reflect that depth of who you are, but also of your expertise as well. So I'd love for you to share kind of how you felt before we started the work and what kind of drew you to do it in the first place.
Yeah, well, I was one of these people who knew who I was many years ago and just, lost touch. And when I started looking at it, I'd open my wardrobe, which was jammed to the hilt, and would think, gosh, I have a whole wardrobe of nothing to wear, as they say. So it was time to cull. And I'm pretty good at that in some areas of my life, but I couldn't be objective. So being brutally honest, I needed to streamline and thin it down so I could see what were the items that really gave me joy and made me feel great. And then, adding a few things that I never would have thought of because my work isn't in that area. So it was great. I like working with professionals in areas that I'm not an expert in. Hopefully everybody does that. Hopefully there's nobody listening to us who tries to be an expert in everything. And, yes, you can save money by doing a DIY, but that wasn't working for me because I just didn't know much about fashion and style. I did kind of know what appealed and, items in my wardrobe that I liked and items that we looked at together thinking, never thought of that. I could try that. And just your encouragement and suggestions, that's what the professional brings is something external that adds value. So that's the main reason I just, wanted to add a bit more value to the wardrobe. And I think we got rid of 35 items. I lost count at one point, but that was also valuable because it just makes space for those things that still matter and that still belong. So that was a major part of the value as well.
Were you surprised at how many kind of new outfits we were able to create from what you already had as well?
Yes. When I look at the photos, I think, why didn't I think of that? And like I say, that's just because that's not what I do. So it is really great. There's some very specific things like, making sure I'm wearing jewelry because it's like one of those things I never thought about or, just like you say, putting different items together. it's still me, because
Yeah.
otherwise I wouldn't feel right wearing it.
Mm.
It's just something I never thought about. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I think that's why I'm so passionate about starting the process with you as well, and with the signature style and the identity and things like that, because it has to be rooted in who you are and what you love. And, you know, there were certain things that we pulled out for your signature style in terms of, you know, prints that you love and colors. And, you know, one of the big things that we did within your style personality profile was those finishing touches, and how that would be, you know, the thing that would make a huge difference. And that obviously is going to look totally different for each individual person. So I think that's why I'm so passionate about starting the process in that way. And often, as you say, you kind of inherently these things about yourself, but it's just kind of like what you were saying earlier about your mission and the fact that we forget.
Yeah. Or can't put it into words, or
Mm,
just those refinements.
mm,
It's just not part of my, or it wasn't part of my vocabulary, which is
mm,
fine. I don't need to be an expert when I've brought in the expert to do that work with me. So it's like, oh,
definitely.
okay, you know, I'm in your capable hands,
Yeah.
and they certainly were capable. So
And how has working together changed how you feel, you know, just about if you're going to an event, or if you've got a speaking engagement or anything like that?
I do think about what to put on, which I know in a lot of your content, you talk about people who think and agonize too much. I never
Mm,
really put a lot of thought into it. So for me, I needed to put more thought in, and,
mm,
or, you know, just do it intentionally. And
mm,
that helps. I don't obsess with it.
mm,
I'm not in the kind of profession where, you know, my look is the main thing. It's
mm.
just, you know, it's just to make me feel authentic and confident. I'm sorry, I know you don't like that word, but you know,
No, but
it's
it does the job, doesn't it?
I have a good sense of self anyway, and
Mm,
I have bought things and worn things in the past where I was like, no, that's not me, but less now, and especially much less now that we've worked together and we've got rid of the things that really didn't need to be in my wardrobe. Everything, like you say, from patterns
mm,
and colors to, you know, the type of colors that I like. And I couldn't articulate a lot of things before we worked together, but then it became
mm.
obvious, and it makes it easier to shop. And I'll go in a shop now and I'll be
Yeah,
like, nope, 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 no. And that's very valuable. I mean, saying no is valuable in a
mm,
lot of contexts, but yeah, I really
definitely.
feel confident that I'm not going to buy anything that is going to sit in the wardrobe and never be worn because it wasn't right. That's
Mm.
also valuable.
And I think that's valuable in terms of your own values as well. It kind of brings you into alignment with that thoughtful
Yeah.
nature, and doing the same for your wardrobe as well, which I think is always really
Yeah.
powerful. And I think you've got those outfits now that you don't actually need to think about it. We've done all of the thinking kind of
Yes.
together and collapsed the time on that, so that now you've got those outfits that are ready to go for speaking engagements or events or things that you're doing, or just day-to-day life.
Yeah. But the only interesting
Amazing.
thing is, you know, people might be able to tell that we are talking and it's summertime, because I know they might be watching this whenever.
Mm,
But it's been so hot. We've had heat waves. And so all the outfits that had blazers and jackets have not come together
mm,
in the past few months. But yeah, I know exactly what I like wearing. And, you know, it's just fun for me to be able to be a bit more intentional with it.
yeah, definitely. So can you let us know what you're working on right now? Anything that would be interesting for people to find out more? And we'll finish with some quick fire questions about your wardrobe as well. But I'd love if there's anything that you would like to share.
Yeah, sure. I still do a bit of book coaching because I'm good at it. And there are people who simply want to do a book. But most of the time, I'm working with people who want to be thought leaders and thoughtful leaders. So, you know,
Mm,
much more expanded strategy about all their writing and all their speaking. And more importantly, making sure that that is coming from that heart led mission that we were talking about. So it's making sure they're really putting their best selves and their best work out there in all kinds of media. And I run the Thoughtful Leaders Club, which is a private members club in London and New York. And the fun thing about that
mm,
is it is all thoughtful leaders who identify with that phrase and who are doing good work, thoughtful work in the world. So it's a lovely, lovely energy. And that fills me up as well. So yes, I founded the club, but it's also a place where I can fill up on all those good emotions as well. We have a huge goal of taking Giving 1% a lot wider. It needs my attention. I'm just playing with ideas on how to expand it without spending a fortune, which, like most entrepreneurs, we don't have heaps of money to throw at things. So it's forcing me to be creative, which I also like. So watch this space. Giving 1% will be getting more attention. And that kind of keeps me busy.
Exciting. Well, we'll put all of the links in the show notes to those different things. And let's go to the quickfire. So what is one item of clothing in your wardrobe that you love the most and why?
I do like my polka dot, my spotty dresses. And I think I got rid of one shirt that was a little tight, but I have so many shirts and jackets and dresses that have the dots. And one thing that we did was put together a shirt with dots and a jacket with dots. And I thought, no, but actually it was interesting because they were different sizes and they, so yeah, I don't know why spots and dots make me smile, probably because I'm a bit dotty. Not spotty, dotty.
I think it's one of those prints that is quite timeless, but it's also quite fun as well, which I think speaks
I don't know why.
nicely to your personality as well. If we opened your wardrobe right now, what would we find way too much of? Probably same.
Well, I have too many shirts and blouses. I know that because there are some that don't get worn, but as we went through them, I was not willing to part with them because they are good. So they just don't come out as often as they would if I only had, fewer. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think I have too many dresses as well, but not way too many. But I have way too many tops. But I'm done with the culling for now.
And what's an outfit or a trend that you look back on and think, I really regret that, and why?
It's not regret because it was part of the old me, but I got rid of the suit. I don't know if it was when you were here. I think it was, but that, one of these tailored city type suits. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, never was, but in the 1980s and 90s and early 2000s, that's what I wore, especially when I worked in corporate. And I would never wear that now, and especially in drab colors. But, I sent almost a brand new suit to the charity shop the other day so someone else can benefit if they are in those kind of professions and they want that. They can always liven it up with a fuchsia shirt or something, but I'm done with that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think people do often hold on to things for longer than they should because, for various different reasons. But that's the beauty of charity shops and vintage and things like that you can give those pieces a second life and a second story and all of that. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. It's been amazing to have you share more about yourself and your work and your experience working together as well. We will share in the show notes the best place to connect with you, but I would say LinkedIn is your platform of choice.
Definitely. If they can spell my name, they'll find me on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. And we'll put that link in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, Mindy.
Thank you, Alex. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to A Styled Life. If today's episode resonated, the best way to support the show is to share it with another trailblazer or leave a quick review. And if you're ready to align your style with your next level of impact, head to the show notes to book your free style strategy call. Because when your style aligns with your purpose, the world takes notice.